everybody, welcome back. Now, I hope you already seen Dune Part 2 because we're going into spoilers in these videos. So, just to give you a heads up. Now, I want to start up with some of the things that I like most about the second film. The incredible action sequences and the evolution of Paul Atreides into a very memorable Hollywood sci-fi character, and that's an important accomplishment. Okay, let's talk about action sequences. There are several throughout the movie. They are not only thrilling, but very high art and very sophisticated. So the first one, of course, is at the very beginning of the movie, the Harkonnen ambush. Now let's talk about this scene. Now, when Paul and his mother Jessica, they are hiding from the Harkonnen soldiers, and when the Harkonnen soldiers activated the anti-gravity devices and then poetically floated to the top of the rock, I was captivated. And this floating idea, instead of using jetpacks, it was really nice, and it gave the action sequence like elements like a ballet, and it was just smart, and they balanced that out with the fast and brutal violence that the scene erupted into. The whole sequence was not only stunning to behold, but very fresh and unique to the Dune franchise, which I love. I mean, director Denis Villeneuve, he's amazing. Now, the other scene is the harvester attack. Whoa. Now, I mean, I knew that thing coming out of the sand, that stick, was some sort of a predator, but I had no idea it was a Fremen hunting much bigger game. That was incredible. I will always remember that. That was a great sequence. I love the way the Fremen were able to hide under the sand and then pop out of the sand for a surprise attack. And it was so cool, and this attack overall was very interesting in many ways. So after they pop out of the sand and they kill the soldiers with the knives, I like the way it played out, taking out not just the harvester but the gunchi they were escorting it. So this sequence played like a classic guerrilla warfare with tactical plans and unit coordination, and I love that stuff. I mean, having to time the rocket attack from the Fremen to the gunfire, because that was the only time that the guncher they let down its shields. So that was the only way a rocket could go in. So in order for you to send something in, you had to allow something to come out. So that was a very dangerous game to play, and it was interesting to watch how they did that, and I thought it was fantastic. And honestly, it was a very well executed plan. Alright, the next action sequence is riding Sandworm. It was amazing. Not only I think the sequence where Paul learns to ride a Sandworm was very well done with the music, and they put you in right in perspective like you were on the Sandworm, and I was like, this is quite the theatrical cinematic experience. But then I like the idea that a whole bunch of people could ride Sandworms at once, so you don't just use Sandworms to go into battle, but there are transportation. And it was funny and interesting when the group up there and the Reverend Mother Jessica was in a wicker basket to protect her from the elements. I was like, this is amazing. I mean, to be able to harness that kind of a power and speed really seemed intoxicating. It was just something fascinating to watch on screen. And then the Gladiator tournament. This one obviously stands out, not just because it introduced a new character, but also because it has a very different visual palette, and that is surprisingly serves as an introduction into Harkonnen culture. So the black and white colors is a nod to how the Harkonnens see the world, and there is no nuance in Violet reigns supreme. But also we learn that Fire Rauta is meant to fight drug opponents for an easy win. So we see that it's a ruthless war filled with propaganda, with the Baron and his extended family willing to use not just violence but also lies to hold on to power, which is interesting. However, Fire Rota discovers that one of the prisoners is not drug, and Fire realizes that his uncle is his uncle's way to test him in battle, in combat. And the bottom line is that if Fire fails that test, clearly the Baron is okay with that because he implemented the test. So Fire doesn't fail, which I think is meant to establish early on that he has a genuinely fighting skills for when he later takes on Paul. And I love the type of firework they use here. It was like a black ink in terms of celebrating, and I love it because it was so cool to see, especially on that IMAX screen. Oh, it was just beautiful. And next up, the attack of the Emperor. A huge civilization feeling that they are superior to the guerrilla warfare fighters they're going up against. But it turns out they're not only slower to move and hampered by tradition, but the guerrilla fighters at the end of the day, this case the guerrillas, the Fremen, simply wanted more. And ordinance versus chaos perfectly visualized by having the Emperor's troop information coming face to face with the Fremen, writing those sandworms. That was amazing. And then, of course, on top of that, they not only had sandworms but atomic warheads. And what makes Dune Part 2 so interesting to me is that when Paul Atreides strides into the Emperor's throne room, his face covered, yet he's still, and perhaps because of the mystery, he still radiates leadership, power, and me. And you could instantly tell that this man and his Fremen forces were formidable and definitely worthy of not just taking on the Emperor, but worthy of defeating him. The fact that they made the ordinance versus chaos, the large mobile civilization versus the guerrilla warfare fighters, they were able to make these two forces seem equal, and it was depending on the circumstances who will win out. That was something very fresh to see in popular culture. And of course, there is the duo. And I respect Denis Villeneuve and his team immensely for having the guts to make this a very quick fight. And I love it because it was fast and it made it seem more real. Also, what made it up for it in terms of balance, it was fast, but it was also beautifully choreographed and brutal. Like, sure, part one, but not before he got stuck with not just one but two massive blades. I was amazed he didn't bleed out when he pulled off those swords out. Kudos also to Timothy Chalamet and Austin Butler for carrying out the fight choreography so well, an incredible mix of action and art. Now, let's talk about Paul Atreides. And to me, what's interesting about Paul Atreides is that he is a man in just the right place at the right time, and he's in so many ways at the nexus of everything that is in play with this story. His house Atreides, but yeah, we also discover his house Harkonnen, and he's a man, a prince, and a soldier, but yet he also has been trained in the ways of the all-female Bene Gesserit, meaning he wields the power of both genders of his world, the powers of the man and the powers of the woman. He's royal, so he understands how the houses operate, yet he's also learned the ways of the Fremen, and he wins the physical fights thanks to the Fremen. And at the end, but he cements his victory by showing respect to the ways that the house operates, and thus by offering to marry the emperor's daughter so that the emperor's bloodline at least stays in power to a degree, and also the idea that is there will lend credibility to an heir. Now, the other houses don't go along with it anyway at first, and that's why the Harkonnen part of Paul told the Fremen forces to lead them to paradise, which in other words means kill them all. So I think after the first couple of rounds of killing, I would think that everybody who's left over at the houses will say, you know what, maybe Paul is okay, especially since he's going to marry Princess Aurora. She's going to be ruling besides him and helping him produce an heir. So it was very clever, and it shows how Paul operates and how he's able to operate, because again, he has that connection to everything basically. As for Timothy Chalamet, I did feel he was perfectly cast as Paul Atreides in the first film, and I was pleasantly surprised and impressed that he was able to portray Paul's evolution and to become the more aggressive character. Chalamet is able to carry himself not just like the lead of an army, but believably as a messiah, and that's very hard to do with the body language, especially since he played the opposite so well, and that's incredible range of acting there, and that Timothy Chalamet has, and I was just really impressed what he did with this character. He made the character so iconic with his performance and his take. Now, while the movie does make you wonder whether or not Paul is really the Messiah, and it only shows you that no matter what, either way, nobody rises to power or on their own. Even for a Messiah, even if he was the Messiah, maneuvering at the human level is still necessary. So let's take a look at that. Stilgar is incredibly important to the rise of Paul, not only in his faith that Paul is the Messiah, but in his ability to do something about it. He's the one who makes Jessica the new Reverend Mother, putting her in a position to help Stilgar cement Paul as the Messiah to the Fremen. And when it comes to Jessica, while Stilgar truly believes Paul is the Messiah, Jessica simply sees a myth that can be harnessed and sees her a lot more after she drinks the water of life, by the way, to become the new Reverend Mother for the Fremen. And when she drinks that water, it awakens the mind of her unborn daughter, who she can now speak to while her daughter is still in the womb. And that is certainly unique to do. And Paul's unborn sister cares about him and wants to help. So Paul has his mother and his unborn sister, who will eventually be played by Natalia Joy, who shows up very briefly here, like it's just for 1 minute or even less in a vision of Paul. But they're working to pull Paul to where he needs to be. So Jessica and Alia are strategizing and they're plotting to make sure everyone thinks Paul is indeed the Messiah, using Jessica's position as the head of the Fremen religion to get that message out. And then finally, let's talk about some of my favorite performances. I'm not going to go over everybody because it's a really big cast, but everyone did a wonderful job in this movie. Everyone brought their A game. But there are a couple of actors I want to give a spoiler shout out. So Zendaya, she did a wonderful job here, especially that she's able to give Shani dignity and strength instead of just playing the girlfriend, and that's hard to do. And Zendaya very much makes Shani her own person. I felt awful for her when Paul announced he will marry Princess Ururan, and good for Shani for keeping it cool as best she could and maintaining what little of her dignity was left, but she didn't deserve that. And then at the end of the movie, when she's getting ready to ride off in a Sandworm by herself and she's really upset, I was like, you go Zendaya, you go Chani, you do your own thing. It was just she was perfectly cast for that role. And Florence Pugh. And speaking of Princess Auroran, her costumes were incredible, and Pugh made these crazy costumes not only seem perfectly normal. That's incredible. She's like, yeah. You see this ski mask? I love it. I was like, looks like you're very comfortable in that. But she's also made them seem, of course, very high fashion. And Pugh here it suits not just the natural grace of a princess, but a groundedness, which I thought was really impressive, not just aesthetically, but I think it also makes her a formidable opponent because she's even handed in her emotion. That makes her even handed in her strategy, and it gives her a very even-handed footing. And we discover she has been trained by the Bene Gesserit, but I thought it was great. And Austin Butler, he felt very much like an extension of Stellan Skarsgård's Baron, like a younger version of whatever that monster was, and a lean and meaning version of that bloated elder. But yet, make no mistake, that was probably the path the Fire Rota was on, but I thought it was amazing. I mean, that Austin Butler gave that character, it was just a very captivating presence wherever he was on screen, and I've loved that, especially by the gladiator scene and that end scene with fight the duel with Paul Atreides. It was just beautiful, a masterclass. So that's my spoiler review for Dune Part 2. Honestly, I love this movie so much, and going to watch it again, and I cannot wait for Dune 3, which will be like Dune Messiah, because director Denis Villeneuve uh, made, made Dune 1 and Dune Part 2 of the same book, the first book. So the third movie will be like Dune Messiah. So and he said he's almost like finish writing the script for that. So I hope this movie does very well at the box office on the long run. I know he's going to be great on opening weekend, like I said, but just I need more Doom now. And we're supposed to get that series of the Bene Gesserits by later this year, so keep an eye for that for more Dune. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe, and bye bye.